الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Assalaamu, alaikum, warahmatullaahi, wabarakaatuh. Okay, in the last session we spoke about some of the issues related to Aqeedah, which was that the reason why we were created was to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Secondly, that we're going to be held accountable for that worship on the Day of Judgment. We'll be resurrected and questioned. Questionally, what is ibadah and what is worship? And lastly, we spoke about the covenant, which the original covenant from the beginning of creation, which we forgot, which the prophets were sent to remind us and call us back to. In this lesson, the scholars are talking about the division of Tawheed, and as we explained, this was in order to help us clarify the different aspects where previous nations, and including some Muslims today, have gone astray in order for us to protect ourselves from those same deviations. I've had a look at the book, the page on the book, and personally I'm going to find it very difficult to explain without a visual aid. So you can have a look at the original text before and after, and for now we will just skip to this chart. The scholars have differed with their division of Tawheed, so here we're going to have a look at two divisions of Tawheed. First of all, Tawheed. What is Tawheed? It's the oneness of Allah the Most High. And as we said in the previous lesson, we were created to worship Allah. So this entails, first of all, knowing who we are worshipping. And this is Allah, the one and only Lord, the one and only Creator, the one who sustains and provides and organizes everything in the universe. Okay, and then secondly, we need to purify our intentions to worship Him alone. So if we have a look at the first division, which is called, in the book we'll refer to it, Tawheed al-Ma'rifah wal-Ithbat, which is the Tawheed of knowledge and affirmation. So this is our beliefs, and we learn this through revelation, of course, from the Quran and the Sunnah, what was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the second division was Tawheed al-Talab wal-Qasd, and this is our application. So after we have believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we need to put that belief into application by worshipping Him. So the worship and our directing all of our acts of worship to Allah alone is considered the Tawheed al-Talab wal-Qasd. Okay, now if you have a look, that was the blue section that we just had a look at. That was the first, that was second in the book. It's the second division, but here it was easy to divide it as make it the first division. Now the second division, under the Tawheed of knowledge and affirmation, you have two divisions, okay, which is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, which generally people explain as Allah's actions for us. So we believe that Allah is the creator, Allah is the sustainer, Allah is the one who is watching over us and who will judge us. Okay, so these are all Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala's actions for us. So we believe that Allah alone, the oneness, the Tawheed is the oneness of Allah in His rububiyyah, His lordship. Okay, and then the second division here, under the same, which is still according to that first one, which is the knowledge and affirmations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, and this one was the Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to His names and attributes. Okay, al-asma' wal-sifat, and to only Him belongs the perfect attributes. For example, we'll cover these in more detail in the coming sessions, inshallah. But for example, hearing. Our hearing, when we talk about hearing, we imagine hearing to be limited. No one can hear us now, we're out of earshot. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hearing is perfect. It's not limited to the same functions as what we have, the eardrum and our ear. So Allah's hearing is perfect, and He hears everything and He knows everything. So these are perfect attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and no one else has these perfect characteristics and names. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has named himself with Asma'ul Husna, with the perfect, beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are in their perfect sense only attributable to him. So that's Tawheed al-Asma' wa Sifat. And then in that first blue division, we said Tawheed al-Talab wal-Qasd. In the second division, the same is the Tawheed al-Uluhiyya, which is the worship, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our worship. So this is our intention to perform all our acts of worship for Allah alone, okay, to pray to Allah alone. And to negate that would be like, for example, to pray to Jesus or Buddha. So sacrifices can be made for other idols, for example. And that would be against Tawheed al-Uluhiyya. So all our prayers, our fasting, our sacrifices, all of these acts of worship are for Allah alone. So these are our acts. Tawheed al-Uluhiyya are our acts. What we do according to the knowledge of those first categories. After we have the knowledge of those first categories, we have knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowledge of how He created us, and He is the one, if He is our creator, He is the one that is due that worship. He is perfect. He is al-A'la. Okay, all of these attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one worthy of our worship. So those last categories, al-Uluhiyya and Tawheed al-Qasd, Talab wal-Qasd, are the result of those knowledge. The knowledge, the Tawheed of knowledge, is the cause of our actions, which is the Tawheed al-Uluhiyya, Tawheed of worship. Okay, so the Sheikh continues on down the page here to remind us that the importance of Tawheed and Aqeedah is the primary goal. It was the original goal. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was the first thing that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called to, and he did not call or he did not prohibit anything else besides that first thing. Okay, he didn't call to anything else. That was the first thing. Without Tawheed, the rest of our deeds would be null and void, as is evident in the verse, which I'm sure we'll come to soon enough. Okay, and the secondly, the Sheikh goes on to say, and that all of the Quran is considered part of Tawheed because of what it's calling to. It's either informing us about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His attributes, or it's calling us to worship Him alone without shirk, or it's ordering us to do good and prohibiting us from doing evil, or it's news about the generosity that we should have and the good characteristics that we should have to the people of Tawheed. So, and even the laws, all of the laws, when we apply the laws, that again is worship. All of the fiqh that is derived is how we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even when dealing with each other. All of those nasiha, how to deal with each other, that come from the Quran, is all a form of worship. So essentially the Quran in its entirety is calling to, either directly through understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Tawheed of that there is La ilaha illallah, there is only one God, there is no God worthy of worship besides Allah, or it's calling to His worship, okay, to those acts which are built upon that knowledge, or it's with mu'amalat, okay, our dealings with each other, which in essence is also seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, and the goal of purpose of our worship, and the result of which will be our main goal is aiming for Jannah. So the whole of the Quran is calling to Tawheed, either as we said, either directly or indirectly. Okay, so that will cover it for this session. Inshallah, I'll just quickly go over this again. Okay, so that we covered that there were the scholars have differed with regard to the division of the categories of Tawheed. The first division, in blue here on the chart, was the Tawheed of knowledge and affirmation, which was our beliefs, the knowledge that we have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the second one was the result of that knowledge was our application of that, which was Tawheed of application, the goal of our purpose. And the second division was Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Asma' wa Sifat, which was also of the knowledge and affirmation. And the second division was Tawheed of worship, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, which is our worshipping, our directing our acts of worship to Allah alone. Inshallah, in the next lesson we will be starting in the first division of Tawheed al-Khabari al-I'tiqadi, which is the Tawheed of knowledge and affirmation, inshallah. Okay, subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.